Good afternoon. My name is Hugh Forrest. I am the Chief Programming Officer of South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. This afternoon, I'm going to talk about South by Southwest past, present, and future of innovation, how March in Austin embodies this transition from artist to entrepreneur that we've been talking about it a lot in the last day and a half. Again, my name is Hugh Forrest. I'm the Chief Programming Officer at South by Southwest. You can always reach me, Hugh at SXSW.com. You can follow me or see my tweets at Hugh_W_Forrest. And here we go. So first and foremost, thanks for coming to my talk this evening. Thanks as well for inviting me to Korea this week. It has been a great 2 days. I've learned a lot. I applaud the organizers for this strong emphasis on the connection between artists and entrepreneurs, and I'll be talking a lot about that over the course of my presentation. We're going to start my presentation talking about what South by Southwest is, our mission statement, as well as see our sizzle reel. We'll then talk about how South by Southwest embodies this transition from artist to entrepreneur. We'll talk about the future of the event and future of innovation. I'll have three concluding points to think about. We'll have South by Southwest contact information, and then a little bit of Q&A at the end. What is South by Southwest? South by Southwest dedicates itself to helping creative people achieve their goals. Founded in 1987 in Austin, Texas, South by Southwest is best known for its conferences and festivals that celebrate the convergence of the interactive, film, and music industries. The event, an essential destination for global professionals, features sessions, showcases, exhibitions, and a variety of networking opportunities. South by Southwest proves that the most unexpected discoveries happen when diverse topics and diverse people come together. Now, that's a lot of words. We've worked on those words very carefully. I think it generally explains what South by Southwest is, but it's even better to see a video to explain what South by Southwest is. So here is our sizzle reel for 2017. Play the video, please. There you go. Just click on the video, it should run at that point. Oh, bottom left. Or click anywhere on it, it should run. Try that bottom left corner again, please. Oops. It's not working. Okay. All right. Look like we're going to go manual. The video is not working, so we'll go to the next slide. More specifics on South by Southwest 2017. This is an overview of our tracks for the 2017 event. The South by Southwest runs March 10th through 19th, 2017 in Austin, Texas. We have about 75,000 industry professionals from all over the world coming to Austin for South by Southwest. We have about 200,000 consumers. Our conference covers everything from startups to policy to artificial intelligence, food, wearables, and much, much more. Again, we've got 24 different tracks which cover all kinds of things we think are of interest to the geek community. The festival portion of the event covers music, film, interactive, and comedy. You can always find out more about South by Southwest at SXSW.com. What we have today with South by Southwest, again, 30,000 people, 75,000 registrants, 200,000 consumers. It's a lot different from where we started 30 years ago. So I'm going to take a few minutes to review the history of the event. South by Southwest started in 1987. This is a picture of our first brochure, which I think was printed on my computer way back when. The event was modeled after something in New York City called the New Music Seminar. At one point, the organizers of the New Music Seminar were going to come to Austin and start their own branch of NMS. It was going to be NMS South. That didn't quite work out, so we organized it locally. The reason it happens in March is because we couldn't find dates to do it anywhere in Austin. Finally, the only dates that were available were spring break, the spring break week in Austin, which was traditionally the worst week of the year for clubs. It was the only week we could find. That week has now become the best week of the year for clubs. I became involved with South by Southwest in 1989. I was hired because I had a computer and South by Southwest didn't. So it is an early lesson in having the right hardware at the right time. South by Southwest, again, started as a music event, and we started very strongly, very strong music scene in Austin, immediately popular. We had lots of great bands come to town. We had lots of great keynotes. One of our early highlights was 1994 when Johnny Cash was a keynote. He also played at a small punk club that held about 200 people. That was a pretty neat thing. 1994 was also when we launched South by Southwest Film and Multimedia, and that's kind of the next era of our history. South by Southwest history from 1995 to 2004. This is a picture of Little Richard, who was a keynote in 2004 for music. We again launched this thing called South by Southwest Multimedia in 1994. We struggled for many, many years to find our voice. In the startup world, as you know, there's this idea of this concept of the Valley of the Death. We, in fact, had about a 10-year Valley of Death with South by Southwest Multimedia. We couldn't find our voice. We couldn't figure out what we were doing. We would not have survived if music, South by Southwest music, was not there paying the bills. We had some great people speaking, but we really couldn't put it together. One of those early great people was Mark Cuban. He was a speaker in 1999. He was, in fact, a keynote in 1999. That was back when he was with broadcast.net. We began our first push into social media in 2004. That was when we had a gentleman named Jonathan Abrams keynote. He was the founder and CEO of a little website called Friendster, which we didn't quite realize was going to be the first push in this big social media effort. On the music side, Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin was a keynote in 2005. More in the Texas vein, Steve Earle, big country western singer, was a keynote in 2006. Next slide, please. There you go. Then the third period of our history, 2007 to 2016. This is a picture of Twitter at the 2007 South by Southwest Interactive Awards. That was probably our watershed moment. Twitter launched at South by Southwest 2007. And I always say sort of, because in fact they'd already been out for a few months, but they're always kind enough to credit South by Southwest as where they got their big push. The idea of Airbnb launched the next year, 2008. The idea for Uber was hatched at South by Southwest in 2009. On the music side, Bruce Springsteen was a keynote in 2012. I'm a big Bruce fan, so I always say that. Elon Musk was a keynote in 2013. He talked about wanting to die on Mars, but not on impact. Edward Snowden spoke by live stream in 2014. President Barack Obama, as well as the First Lady, spoke at South by Southwest this past March. So what we've seen in this last period of history from 2007 to 2016 is South by Southwest has very much transitioned from a music event to an interactive event. And again, I think that that very much mirrors what we've talked about here for the last 2 days. In the 1990s, music was the big breadwinner for South by Southwest. As I mentioned before, this thing called South by Southwest Multimedia would not have survived if not music paying the bills. In the 2000s and 2010s, interactive has assumed that role as the breadwinner in the family. This shift generally reflects the overall shift in the economy, overall shift in how we think, where tech is a backbone to everything we do. And tech certainly has had a huge impact on these traditional content industries that powered South by Southwest, i.e. music and film. So this transition of the event has also changed the demographics of the event. We see more tech people attending South by Southwest, more entrepreneurs, more startups, more founders, more funders, particularly at the beginning of the week. We see also more and more established businesses coming to South by Southwest and it becoming more and more of a business event. These established businesses want to know what the tech people are doing. They want to be on top of the next trend before it happens. And our best moment, South by Southwest, is a preview of what will happen in 2 years. We also see an overall shift in spending power at South by Southwest. And the second part of the week, where music is still very strong, but a little more consumer focused in terms of bands. I think another interesting thing to think about in terms of the transition of the event is one of the most popular panels that we've traditionally had at South by Southwest. 25 years ago, one of the most popular sessions was the demo session. This was when bands would have their demo played on stage. A&R people, similar to Karen speaking this morning, would listen to a minute of their tape, say what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it. That session is still popular, but it's certainly not as popular as pitch sessions. Pitch sessions are what you've seen here the last 2 days. It's when startups come up and talk about their idea, get judged by VCs, by media people, by other people in the industry. So in many ways, those kinds of sessions, in my mind, are alike. Bands in demo sessions, startups in pitch sessions, they're both, again, giving a taste of what they do to an audience. It's just very much different in terms of the time frame. It also reflects different gatekeepers, different ways we're thinking about things in 2016. So that's where we are now. Let's talk a little bit about the future of the event and some of the trends that I think will become even more popular in the future. So trend number one, future point number one, South by Southwest will become more virtual. This is a headline from a Chicago newspaper covering South by Southwest in 2016, talking about how virtual reality was one of the biggest trends this past March in Austin. That certainly makes sense, and it certainly makes sense in the context of what we've talked about here the last 2 days. We know that virtual reality is going to be big. We're at the tip of the iceberg now. It's going to be a big thing for the next 10 years. We certainly expect to see this again in March 2017 at South by Southwest and continuing forward. VR certainly has applications throughout the things we do at South by Southwest, whether that be technology, whether that be music, or whether that be film. I think the other interesting things to consider here is how VR will impact events such as this one that we do in the future. Will there be a point where we can put a VR headset on and we can have the same experience of being in a room with a bunch of other people sharing ideas similar to what we do now? Technology is not there yet, but who knows how that will evolve in the future. I personally think that people still like connecting face to face, but again, technology is developing so rapidly that may change in the future. Point number two, future of South by Southwest is much more medical. This is a picture of a woman named Jennifer Doudna. She is the co-founder of a gene splicing technology called CRISPR. She is one of our keynotes for the 2017 event. We have added a health track at South by Southwest over the last few years. and that health track is growing very, very quickly. That health track reflects that so much of the technology we're developing at this point has a health component. You think about your smartwatch, it measures your heartbeat, it measures how many calories you're doing per day. You think of wearable technology that measures body functions. Again, we see that as a huge growth area in the next few years. The addition of a health track at South by Southwest also reflects that we have a new medical school in Austin, and South by Southwest is always a very strong reflection of what is hot in Austin. So the music industry was hot in the 80s, hence a music event. We added a film and multimedia event as technology and movie industry began to grow, and as we see the medical industry in Austin growing, we're adding a health component. The third point, future of South by Southwest is much more nimble. Pace of technological change is speeding up very, very quickly. As I've mentioned in the history, it took us a long while to go from a music event to a tech event. I think those changes will happen faster in the future, whether it will be more of a health event more quickly, whether it transitions into something else more quickly, we'll see. But again, if we're going to survive, if we're going to continue to prosper, if we're going to thrive, we need to be more nimble, and I think that that is something that extends across all industries at this point. 3 quick takeaways before we go to Q&A. Lesson number 1, geeks are the new rock stars. Obviously a picture of Mark Zuckerberg here being mobbed by fans. 15 years ago, it was pretty easy to tell who was a tech person at South by Southwest, at other events. It is much less so these days. The popularity of startups, that whole startup ethos, that whole startup narrative has become so powerful. Again, geeks are the new rock stars. People, young kids in America, young kids in Korea want to become startups at this point. That is very different from 10 to 15 to 20 years ago when South by Southwest started. Today's teenagers want to be Mark Zuckerberg more than they want to be Mick Jagger. Lesson number 2, something that we've talked about and I think seen a lot the last 2 days. Startups are a lot like bands. You have the obvious similarity that a lot of bands started in garages and a lot of startups started in garages. There you go. Most young bands fail to make it big. Most startups fail to make it big. That's okay, that's fine. In both cases, failure often brings the startup or the band closer to an eventual success. Lots of takeaways from bands that don't make it big, lots of takeaways from startups that don't make it big. So again, a lot of similarities there. I would also say that one of the big points with our journey at South by Southwest is the importance of persistence and patience, that these things take a long time to develop. Lesson number 3, and I think again, very important and very relevant to what we've been talking about for the last 2 days, creativity is always king. This is the cover of the Richard Florida book from about 10 years ago, Rise of the Creative Class. Richard Florida was a keynote at South by Southwest in I think 2003. Great book about the importance of creativity. Growth of South by Southwest has always been powered by the creativity and energy in Austin. This creativity has changed a ton since 1987. 1987, again, it was all about bands. We added this film and multimedia thing. It took a long while for the multimedia thing to take off. But again, the common theme here, the through line, is that idea of creativity. And that creative spark is very much a part of everything that you guys do as startups. Again, really love what we've done, what the conference has done in the last 2 days about emphasizing this connection between artists and entrepreneurs. Again, creativity is the bottom line for everything we do at South by Southwest. Coming to South by Southwest is a great way to meet other creatives, although there are great opportunities to meet other creatives throughout, and this particular event has been a great way to meet other creatives. Last but not least, the dates for the 2017 event, March 10th through 19th. You can always find the most up-to-date information about South by Southwest at SXSW.com. Follow us on Twitter at SXSW.com. Follow me on Twitter at Hugh_W_Forrest. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the day for my presentation. Welcome all of you to Austin in March 2017 or March 2018. It is again a great place to celebrate creativity, to celebrate artistry, to celebrate startups and all the creative culture that you guys are helping to brew. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is John Nam with Strong Ventures, and Strong Ventures is a seed fund based in Los Angeles and also with offices here in Seoul. And I also want to thank KOCCA and all the different partners for making this great event happen. I've been touched the last 2 days by the convergence of artistry and startups and all the innovation that has been featured on this stage and around. Hugh, I know we had a bit of a technical glitch earlier with the video, but they say they're ready, so how about we show it briefly right now?
Video is always better than you and I talking.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I direct short films, I'm a street photographer, and I do sound design.
I'm a mobile app developer and a stand-up comedian.
I'm a project manager at a digital agency, and I play in a punk band.
I'm a chef.
CEO.
Showrunner.
Venture capitalist. I own a craft brewery.
Legislator.
Creative director.
I'm presenting my research.
I'm looking for new talent.
I'm here to see what's next.
Connection.
Discovery.
Surprise.
I'm here for the unexpected.
South by Southwest helps creative people achieve their goals. It's our mission to facilitate face-to-face connections, new opportunities, and unexpected discovery through an event that brings together multifaceted people from all walks of life from around the globe. South by Southwest is the intersection of art and technology, inspiration and surprise. Come be a part of one of the most
Diverse.
Collaborative.
Inventive.
communities in the world.
Looks like fun, eh?
Yeah, awesome event. Yeah. So, Hugh, first question is a bit of a personal curiosity, and we didn't discuss it earlier, but I noticed that the initials for South by Southwest is SXSW, but there's sort of a branding insistence that we call it South by Southwest instead of SXSW. Was that very intentional from the beginning? Like short form South by and then long form South by Southwest? I was one of the early sort of, people who didn't realize and called it SXSW, and then I had tech people laughing under their breath. Yeah.
It's all good. The reason for the name is that the initial founders of South by Southwest were all film geeks at the University of Texas, and so their favorite film was the Hitchcock film North by Northwest. And so when trying to come up with some kind of name that was catchy, but didn't have too much expectations, they came up with this South by Southwest name, and it worked really well. It's easily shortened to SXSW or South by, and again, it has caught on really well. But yeah, we'll take any of those abbreviations and it'll work just fine.
So it's okay to call it SXSW.
It is
too?
absolutely okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Officially, it's been told, so people won't laugh at you. And it's become a global event, and every year more and more attended by people from all over the world. When it comes to Korean startups and Korean artists, we discussed some of the Korean sort of startup organizations that have been taking some of the startup teams to South by, such as DCamp. Now KOCCA is going to take a select team from the startups that have pitched here. What's the best way of Korean startups to prepare and apply and get to South by Southwest? Is it better to go through one of these collective teams or apply by themselves? Can you give us some guidance?
Well, again, another great question, and certainly one of the big trends we've seen at South by Southwest over the last few years is much more of an international presence. 2016, I think we had representatives from 100 different countries from all over the world, and that's a great thing to be able to meet, connect, brainstorm with other people from all over the world. In terms of the Korean participation, we've had a K-pop night during South by Southwest Music for the last few years. That has turned out to be incredibly popular. We've also seen a big push for startups at South by Southwest for Korean startups, and that's been neat also to reflect that founder community in Austin in March. In terms of how to get involved, we have many pitch events at South by Southwest. Our official pitch event is called South by Southwest Accelerator Pitch Event. The deadline for applying to that is Friday, November 11th, so there's still a little bit of time there. I would recommend that you go through some of the agencies that you mentioned before, or if you have questions on that, you can always email me, hugh@sxsw.com. But as with a lot of things in life, the most important thing is beating that November 11th deadline. It's open, the South by Southwest Accelerator Pitch Event is open to startups that have launched in the last 18 months. It's a great opportunity to, again, get your idea, get your new startup, get your new project in front of a very influential audience.
Great. And in terms of at that accelerator pitch event, what are the odds or how represented are international startups in that pitch lineup?
We have, the last couple of years, we've had about 500 startups apply. About 50 of those get chosen as finalists, so it's a very competitive process. What has been particularly fascinating in the last few years is the international representation there. And I think last year, for both the last 2 years, I think 3 out of the 8 category winners were international startups. So again, that reflects something we've talked about the last 2 days here, that these pockets of innovation are happening. It's no longer just Silicon Valley, it's all over the world, and particularly amazing to see what's happening in Korea now.
Great. So you mentioned in your presentation virtual reality as taking the stage in 2016 and probably carrying on into 2017. You mentioned also health technology. Any other trends or tracks that you see coming in the next few years down the line?
Well, realize that for South by Southwest, we'll have somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 total panels. So there are a lot of different trends you can pull out of the event with that many sessions, but some of the things that we're certainly seeing a big push for in 2017. Innovation in the transportation industry. A lot of stuff on self-driving cars, but that innovation also extends to things like the Hyperloop, to private space travel, to new kinds of supersonic jets. We're also seeing a lot of push particularly from US companies with bots and chatbots. This is a technology that I think has been more functional in Asia earlier than the US, but in the US with the release of Facebook Messenger, we're seeing a ton of growth there. And one of the interesting statistics there is that a year ago in our panel application process, there were 0 proposals among 4,000 that mentioned bots and chatbots. This year there was something like 40. So 0 to 40, not indicates a pretty large swing there.
Who are some of the top keynotes you have for 2017?
I mentioned earlier Jennifer Doudna, again, the co-founder of CRISPR. In terms of some of the other big speakers for 2017, we've got Bill Ford Jr. from the Ford Motor Company. Again, he'll be talking about their self-driving car effort. We've got Gary Vaynerchuk, who's spoken quite a bit at the event and always a very popular speaker. From one of the presentations earlier today, we've got Kate Crawford speaking about AI. I will also say that our biggest content announcement of the season happens this coming Monday, October 17th. We'll release about 700 sessions that day, plus announce another handful of keynotes and featured speakers. So stay tuned to www.sxsw.com on Monday.
Great. Last question. If I know there hasn't been a South by Southwest outside of the United States. If you do one in Asia, would Seoul be the city you choose?
I think there are at least 2 hypotheticals in that question, which cancels out anything. I've been extremely impressed with what I've seen at the conference the last 2 days, and that mirrors what we saw in Austin last spring with Korean startups. Whether there's ever a South by Southwest type event in Asia, in Korea, who knows? But again, seeing what's happened here the last 2 days, it's been incredible. And again, kudos to Stella and the other organizers. I really, really love this strong connection between artists, between creativity, and between startups. I really think that is an important thing to remember, that creativity powers everything, and particularly in the startup world, and keep doing that, and we'll see more and more, a stronger and stronger bridge between Austin and Korea.
Well, Hugh, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your stories. Let's give a hand to Hugh and South by Southwest.
Thank you.